August 27, 2021, we want to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Republic of Moldova. Parabéns, República da Moldávia, que estamos comemorando o 30º aniversário da República da Moldova ou Moldávia. Parabéns!
Good morning, Mr. Bitelman. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time to record this interview.
It's my pleasure. Everything I can help you, it's a pleasure for me as a representative of Moldova in Brazil, as Honorary Consul. It's my pleasure.
We know you have Bessarabian roots. Please tell us about your mother's family.
Yes. My 4 grandparents were born in Bessarabia, and my father was born in Bessarabia too. My mother's family, her father, Flavio Malai, was born in Denis, that now it's Edinet. And his name when he was born was Flavio Malai. He came to Brazil and he became Paulo Mendes. They translate his name in Brazil, so everybody called him Paulo Mendes in Brazil. But his official name was Paulo Flavio Malai Mendes because of his roots. And Flavio is a Jewish name. You can translate to Paulo or to Flavio. So I am in Hebrew, I am Flavio too, but in Portuguese, I'm Flavio. This is my grandfather from my mother's side. Her mother was born in Tsekureni, Sukeron, or Sokiriani, that now is Ukraine, but used to be Bessarabia. And you cannot imagine how many people in Brazil came from Sukeron. Everybody you talk with, a lot of friends, oh, my grandmother came from Sukeron, my grandfather came from Sukeron, everybody. Sukeron, it was like a huge city, but actually it's a small village. But everybody came from Sukeron. Even my mother, my wife, her father is from Hungary, and her mother was born in Brazil, but her parents came from Sukeron too. So Sukeron, it's very important here in Brazil. So this is my mother's side. My grandfather's mother died when he was born, and his father married to another lady in Denis, and had another child. His mother's sister, who was already in Brazil, went to Bessarabia to visit him and found him a little bit sad because he had a mother-in-law and another brother, and he wasn't very happy. So his aunt brought him in 1910 to Brazil and took care of him in Brazil as a child in 1910, a long time ago, more than 100 years ago. My mother's mother came to Brazil with her father and all the sisters and brothers. Her mother was dead already, and they came to Brazil probably in 1920. And my grandfather was traveling Brazil to do business and met my grandmother in Paraíba, in the northeast of Brazil, and they married, special cup from Moldova. And so they married in the northeast of Brazil, and my mother was already born in João Pessoa, Paraíba, in the northeast of Brazil, and she is a Brazilian born. So this is from my mother's side. From my father's side, his parents and himself were born in Chisinau. They used to call Kishinev. So they were born before the Bolshevik Revolution. Even my father was born in 1914. And so it was already at the time of Czar. And in Kishinev, as you know, in 1903, 1905, and 1908, you have very terrible pogroms. So the family was there in Chisinau. When my father was born, the family used to be rich, but then they lost everything and was very poor with anti-Semitism in Chisinau. In a certain moment, they decided it was time to move to Brazil. So the first person was my father's brother, the oldest brother, came to Brazil, to the northeast of Brazil, in a place called Fortaleza in the state of Ceará. Then another brother came, then my father came, and then the three brothers in Fortaleza sent money to bring the sisters, the two sisters, and the father and the mother. So everybody came to Fortaleza and stayed there from 1930. They came in 1930, 28, 29, 30, and around 1940, 42, they moved from Fortaleza to Sao Paulo. Mm-hmm. And so they established in the furniture retailing business in Sao Paulo. And that's what my family business was, furniture retailing, from my father's side. From my mother's side, also, her father died in the beginning of the war in 1939. Mm-hmm. So her mother decided, let's go to Sao Paulo to be close to your father's family. And they moved to Sao Paulo. My grandmother died a few years later, and my mother was taken care by the same lady who took my grandfather from Denis to Brazil, Rosa Kaufman. She took care of my mother till she met my father and got married in 1945. They married in 1945. Then in 1946, my sister was born. And 1949, I was born. So I am 73 years old now.
Congratulations. Please tell me, why Brazil? Why not Europe? Why not USA? Why not Canada?
The reason for Brazil is that a lot of people used to be going to United States and Canada. Yes. But at that time, United States and Canada started to close their doors to immigration. So it was difficult to immigrate. You need an invitation, or you need to have someone to invite you to come to the country. So Brazil, Argentina were countries that was easier to come. So that's the reason, because it was very difficult to go to United States and Canada at that time.
Did all dynasty immigrated in Brazil, or you have the relatives in other countries?
From my mother's side, I would say 99% are in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Some people, she has a very good cousin that when he was 13, he lost his father and his mother. So from Brazil, he immigrated. He was born in Brazil, but he immigrated to Israel. And so his part of this family that I have in Israel is from my mother's cousin. Mm-hmm. From my father's side, everybody came to Brazil. Only one very good, his best friend and cousin, stay in Chisinau, mm-hmm. married to a lady in Chisinau, in Kishinev, had children there. During the Second War, he was part of the Soviet Union army, mm-hmm. and all his family moved to Kazakhstan during the war, mm-hmm. to survive, because in Chisinau, every Jewish was killed. After the war, they came back to Kishinev, and finished the war. He came down. My father's cousin was working in the railroad business, and he died. But in 19 1991, when Soviet Union finished, all the family moved from Chisinau to Israel too. So now I have family in Israel from my father's side and from my mother's side. Not big family, but some relatives. And the rest are in Brazil. I discovered some Bitelmans in New York, in Chile, in Argentina, but they are not very close. It is like the son of a great-grandfather of someone that I was in New York 1 month ago, and I visit them, and I have lunch with them, I meet them, but we are not very close, and we are not very close relatives. It's far relatives.
Let's speak about the history of your grandparents. When he comes to Brazil, what were the first profession?
Okay, my grandparents from my father's side, when they came to Brazil, they were already old. My grandfather was almost blind and poor, and they couldn't work anymore. But the kids were working. For 2 years, the kids learned the language of Portuguese language, that's the language of Brazil, and they were selling clothes and tissues door to door. We call clientelchki, or we call that it's salespeople selling goods door to door. So for 2 years, they were doing that to make money, to invite the grandparents to come and the sisters to come, but only the 3 brothers were working in this field. After 2 years, they make some money, they were getting better, and all of them start in the furniture business in Fortaleza. And when they moved to Sao Paulo, they kept doing furniture retailing in Sao Paulo.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's speak about you.
Okay.
You were the CEO of Photo-Optica. How do you did manage the one of largest distribution network in optical and photographic stores? Brazil is a big market and competition is certainly strong. How it's work?
Okay, so first, Photo-Optica, it was founded in 1920 by the grandfather of my wife. So he started, his family came from Hungary. They have already 1 or 2 stores of photography in Hungary with 3 brothers. When he wanted to go into the business, the older brother said, we are already 3 brothers here. I will help you to go to Brazil. We take some merchandise. Let's start a Photo-Optica in Brazil. So they came in 1920 and they have started the business of photography. It was 95% photography and 5% optical. At that time, small optical and big photography. When my wife's grandmother was pregnant and wanted to have a baby, she said, I cannot have a baby in Brazil. I must go back to Hungary to have a baby close to my family. So they left Photo-Optica in Brazil with some managers and moved to Budapest to have my father-in-law was born in Budapest in 1924. And only when he was 6 years old, already strong, they came back to Brazil, took again Photo-Optica from the managers and start working again in Photo-Optica. So Photo-Optica first generation was my wife's grandfather. Second generation, my wife's father, who took the company in 1959 when his father died. And so he was the president and CEO. And when I graduated from engineering, after graduating from engineering from Mackenzie University in Brazil, I did a master's degree in business administration, University of Sao Paulo. So my father-in-law invited me, please come to help me to manage the company. So I joined him and I start managing the company. At that time, the company had probably 8 stores, and we grew to 30 stores, not all over Brazil. It was more in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro area. So we work hard, but my father-in-law was also a good businessman and an artist. And my 3 brothers-in-law were artists. One is a photographer, one is a designer, graphic designer, and one is in the movie business. So nobody wanted to be in the photoptica. So I was the one working as a business, taking care. But in a certain moment, we decided to sell the company in 1997. Why? I was the president of Photo Market Association for Brazil, and I was on the board of Photo Market Association in the United States, and I was very involved in the trends of photography all over the world. And I knew that photography is going to die because that procedure of taking pictures with analogic cameras, with films, and going to the store, please make 36 pictures of this film because I want this picture to put in my album. With the digital, now it's over. But in that time, it wasn't over yet, but I had the feeling that it's going. So we decided to sell the company in 1997. And then I went into publishing. And I started to publish magazines of optical, ophthalmology, tourism, travel. And I was pro bono. I was doing 2 magazines of Jewish culture.
Another people from our book, Samuel Kitroser, invented the camera door for Polaroid. He changed the world.
Yes.
Please tell, what is the key of success in the business? The suppliers, the interpersonal relationship, the physical location of stores, customer communication strategy, how it works? Please tell me.
You are talking about Photoptica or you are talking about my publishing company?
About the business. I think the business the same, have the same strategies, or not?
Yes. Sao Paulo is the biggest city of South America. Sao Paulo is like 16 million people lives in the great Sao Paulo area. 16 million is a lot of people. So Sao Paulo is almost like New York. It's a huge city with a lot of the money in Brazil starts in Sao Paulo.
It's 5 Moldova.
Yes, 5 Moldovas. Yes. And so Rio de Janeiro is a second city, but used to be important, but used to be the capital of Brazil. In 1960, when the capital of Brazil moved from Rio de Janeiro to Brasilia, Rio de Janeiro lost power, lost importance. So it's a beautiful city, beautiful ocean, beautiful mountains, beautiful sea. It's a pleasure to go there, but the business strong is in Sao Paulo. So Sao Paulo is a very important city. And only in Sao Paulo you can have a huge business. Even when I had the publishing company, I would say that 90% of my customers were from Sao Paulo. So I could visit them in Sao Paulo. Some people from the optical lenses business was in Rio de Janeiro. So once a month, every 2 months, I travel to Rio de Janeiro to visit them. But the business strategy was focused in Sao Paulo. So even today, Photoptica now belongs to Luxottica and Essilor, and now they have 150 stores in Brazil with the name Photoptica, but now they call Grand Vision by Photoptica. And some are franchise, some are company owned. In my time, every store was company owned. We had no franchise at that time. And our sales was around $70 million at that time when we sold the company to a private equity fund.
After you become the president of Jobson Brazil, what is the new market trends? The people from TikTok or bloggers have the opportunity to reshape the online advertising market?
Yes, first, when photography, as I told you, was 95% photography, 5% business in the beginning. When we sold the company, it was 50% optical, 50% photography. And the trend of the future was optical, because optical still today is very important and photography went down. So when I sold the company, a publishing company specialized in optical and ophthalmology from the United States invite me to become their partner in Brazil. So in the beginning, Jobson, the name Jobson was because they have a company called Jobson Publishing in the United States, in New York. So we opened here Jobson Brazil. So Jobson Brazil was 50% the American Jobson and 50% Flavio Bitelman. And the reasons they chose me was because I was a CEO of an important optical company. I knew everybody in the market, and I could develop that business of publishing. In the beginning, optical. So we started with a small magazine that was selling very little. In 1 year, we grew very quickly to a big publishing. And then after 2 or 3 years, I started also another magazine for ophthalmology. Another few years, I started another magazine for travel and tourism. So that's how we start. And in the beginning, it was just publish printed magazines in paper. Suddenly, I started to have some sites of my magazines. So all the magazines, I have sites, but 99% of the money was coming to the printed magazine, not to the online. And when the business was growing and I stayed 20 years doing publishing magazines, but then the money started going to online, but not for me. Start going to Google, to Facebook, to Instagram, and not coming to my pocket. So in that moment, I decided enough. So I gave the magazines as a gift to my employees. You can take the magazines, it's your business. Now they are very strong online, but I decided to retire and focus as an Honorary Consul of Moldova in Brazil.
Let's speak about this, about your community responsibilities. How is big the Jewish network in Sao Paulo? Do you know all the people with Bessarabia roots?
I don't know everybody, but it's like this. The Jewish community in Brazil is more or less 150,000 people in Brazil. In Argentina, it's 400,000, much more Jewish in Argentina than Brazil. From 150,000 in Brazil, around 70 to 80,000 lives in Sao Paulo. Then probably 20 or 30,000 in Rio de Janeiro. And in the other places, 5,000, 10,000, 3,000. You have a little bit everywhere, but the big communities are probably in 8 different cities. In Sao Paulo, I don't know the 70,000 people, but I know many people. I have good relations. I work in the Jewish Cultural Center for 25 years as a director and vice president there. I work in the Hebraica Club, who is the biggest Jewish club all over the world, is in Sao Paulo. It's a huge club because usually when you go to the United States or Canada, they have a temple, a synagogue, and in that synagogue, they have some cultural activities, social activities, some sports, maybe a swimming pool. But in Brazil, in 1953, they decided to build a huge club. So this club is like 200 meters by 200 meters. It's huge. And you can find everything that you imagine, all the sports, all the social activities, all the cultural activities, gallery, exhibitions, this and that. So I was the publisher of their magazine for many years as a pro bono, as not for money, just to help that club. So I am involved in the community in different ways. I am well known. And we have now 3 Jewish cemeteries in Sao Paulo. The oldest one is already almost full. And they wrote a book about that cemetery, very interesting book. In this book, they have everybody there, everybody who is in that cemetery, they have the name, where they was born, where they died, where they come from, and probably 60% of the original Jewish community came from Bessarabia. So you have like a list who came from Tsukeron, Secureni, a list who came from Yedenitz, a list who came from Chisinau, Kishinev. So it was the first important immigration came from Bessarabia.
Is this the reason to open the honorary consulates in other countries from Latin America? How do you think?
I think it's possible. As far as I know today, I am the only one in Latin America.
Yes.
There is an honorary consul in the United States, one in New York, who is a good friend of mine, Mark Mayer. There is one in Chicago, I think maybe in other cities in the United States. But in Latin America, I think I am the only one. Because in 2018, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Moldova invite all the honorary consuls to go to Chisinau for a big meeting. It was the first week of October, so we could enjoy the wine celebration in Chisinau in the middle of the city. It was a beautiful event. And there, I was the only one from Americas there, because even the honorary consul of New York couldn't go. But we had people from Sweden, from Denmark, from Pakistan, from Turkey, all over the world, all the honorary consuls. We were almost 60 honorary consuls in that meeting.
Please tell us how about this history? How do you come to this idea to become the honorary consul of Moldova?
First, a friend of mine who was honorary consul of another country, he was getting old and he was tired. And he asked me, would you like to replace me and take this country? It was an Africa country, to become honorary country from Benin in Africa. And I said, let me think a little bit. Then I came home and I spoke with my wife, and my wife said, Flavio, if you want to become an honorary consul, you must be from Moldova, not from Benin. You have no relations to Benin. So try to Moldova. So I went into the site of Moldova, and there is an option there, how to become honorary consul. And you have to prepare all these documents and recommendation letters. And so I start preparing all the documents, start talking to a gentleman from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the recommendation letters. I even have a letter from the former president of Brazil, Fernando Henrique Cardoso, who wrote me, the best person to represent your country in Brazil is Flavio Bitelman, and so and so. I sent everything. But suddenly the person who I was talking in Chisinau, he became or a consul or an ambassador in another country. And he didn't take care of my case anymore. So I was very disappointed, nobody to talk. I didn't know with whom to talk. And one day a gentleman from Moldova was here in Brazil, and I told him, and he said, let me speak with some friends to see if they can find your documents. He spoke And they couldn't find, but please make a copy and send again to this gentleman. And I sent, and this gentleman sent someone to visit me in Brazil to see if I was a nice guy. And after that, they approved me as an honorary consul since 2015. So I am already for 7 years, the honorary consul of Moldova.
What the people from Brazil know about Moldova? Maybe personalities, maybe history, maybe scientists, or maybe the food, or performers. What no?
In the beginning, Moldova or Moldavia, nobody knew anything. It was every time you say Moldova, where is Moldova? Where is Moldavia? Nobody knew. It was, but Bessarabia, everybody heard about Bessarabia. Oh, my family came from Bessarabia. My grandfather family came from Bessarabia. And many times Bessarabia was Russia, or Bessarabia was Romania, or Bessarabia was Soviet Union. But Moldova as a country, very little people knew about Moldova or Moldavia. Little by little, in these last 7 years, I start talking in the press, I'm talking in the television, or talking in some meetings with people, showing what's Moldova, and then people now start. And now with the war, everybody knows about Moldova. Oh, Moldova is next to Ukraine, between Romania and Ukraine. And so with the war, I spoke already to more than 10 different TV channels explaining what's going on and what's dangerous, what I think about the war, what I think if it's coming to Moldova or not. So now the people know a little bit about Moldova. But before, everybody was talking about Bessarabia, Bessarabia, Bessarabia. And Bessarabia was like imaginary country that could be Russia, could be Romania, could be Soviet Union, but nobody could understand. Even today, when I speak with some people, I have to explain, look, Moldova was a principality from 1400 and then became Ottoman Empire for 200 years. Then Ottoman lost and became Russian Empire for 100 years. And when Russia became communist, they lost Moldavia, Bessarabia to Romania with the Versailles Agreement. It was an agreement in Europe. Then became Romania from 1918 till the Second War. And when the Second War, Romania became communist, lost Bessarabia to become one of the Soviet republics. And in 1991, when Soviet Union was finished, now we have a country called Moldova or Moldavia, only 30 years old. August 27 will become 31 years old. It's very young.
Are your plans to strengthen the Moldovan-Brazilian relationship?
First, I'm very close also with the Romanian community here. I'm very good friends of the ambassador of Romania in Brazil. We don't have an embassy of Moldova in Brazil. The only embassy we have in all America is in Washington, D.C. So we have good relation with the Romanian embassy and the honorary consuls of Romania, and they invite me to be part of the group as Romanian, Moldova, friends, close neighbors there. So right now, we are just trying to open a Chamber of Commerce, Romania, Moldova, Brazil, together. So we are in the, and I will be one of the 5 vice presidents. So we are building this to try to connect business between Brazil, Romania, Moldova, and try to do business together. So this is one of the focus. Second, nobody have ever heard about Moldova wine in Brazil.
Mhm.
So for many years, I was knocking the door of importers of wine. Please, can you help me to bring Moldova wine to Brazil? No, 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 please forget about Moldova wine. Here in Brazil, we sell Argentina wine, Chile wine, then French, Italian, Portuguese, Spain. These 6 countries are 95% of the wine in Brazil. The rest 5% is California wine, South Africa, Australia. So forget about Moldova. Then one day I was in a restaurant and they have a bottle of Romanian wine. Say, oh, who is the importer of that wine? It's a gentleman from Caxias in the south of Brazil who was importing from Romania, from Bulgaria, from Greece. So I contact him and I invite him to go to Moldova, and he visits Moldova, and he is already importing Moldova wine to Brazil. So that now Moldova wine started to be known, and I organized some wine tasting with important people from the wine business in Brazil, so they can try and love Moldova wine. And I'm trying to organize trips from Moldovan from a wine specialist to Moldova, and also from the tour business to visit Moldova to start bringing Brazilians to visit Moldova.
Mhm.
I was also people from CNN television and from Global Television wanted to go to Moldova to do a shooting about Moldova, but then with the war, we stop a little bit right now. But as soon as the war is finished, we will bring these people to Moldova to help the wine industry, the tourist industry, and show the country to our Brazilian market.
How we can help you? It's a very interesting idea. We can identify the location or creating of tourist routes. Please tell us how we can help you.
Any way do you think you can help me will be great. These people from wine, we have to invite these people. Some can pay their airline tickets. Some we have to even to offer some airline tickets. But then in Moldova, we need to organize the tour, have hotels, have food, have transportation to show. I'm sure the Wine Association of Moldova can help, but in the past was George Arpentin, then became Christina from
Mimi Frolov.
Mimi. Yes. Now I don't know who is the new president. If you can introduce me the new president with a WhatsApp telephone number. So, and I was in New York in the month of June. I stayed in New York 1 month, and I decided I couldn't go to Washington to meet our ambassador, Eugene Caras, who is a very nice gentleman, a good friend. But I wanted to visit the United Nations. So the ambassador introduced me to George Leuca, the ambassador of Moldova in the United Nations, and he invited me to visit the United Nations. He was my host. At that time, Natalia Turcanu, I don't know if you know her.
I know Natalia Turcanu, yes.
She was in New York and we are good friends. And I told her, why don't you come with me to visit the United Nations? I said, oh, it's a pleasure. So we went together, Natalia and myself, and George Leuca was our host, and to give a big tour of United Nations and explain everything, how it works. And then I invite Natalia to have lunch together. Then the other day, we had breakfast together with my wife, and she gave us some gifts from Moldova. even this.
You visited Moldova more times. What is the national dish you like?
First, I visited 2 times. The first time I visited in 2006. In 2006, I watched a movie here in Brazil called Life is Illuminated. It's about an old grandfather dying in New York, and his grandson was next to him, and he was almost dying, and he took a box like this, and he said, "Grandson, here you have a lot of information to understand how can I came to the United States, I survived, and you are born. Go to Eastern Europe, look for a lady that helped me to survive, and say thank you to her. Without her, you wouldn't exist." So I like it very much, that movie. And the movie was in Ukraine. But I have a very good friend in Montreal, Canada, whose family is from Ukraine. So I called him from the cinema, and I said, I love this movie. Why don't you and me go to Moldova and Ukraine to look for our roots? And he said, good idea, let's do it. And so we organized a trip. He, as a Canadian, could do his visa at the airport, no problem. I, as a Brazilian at that time, 2006, I need an invitation letter, and I didn't know how to get an invitation letter. Then I spoke with my uncle. My father was died already, but my uncle said, do you remember your father's best friend and cousin who died? His son is in Israel. This is his email and phone. Ask him, he can help. So I called him, and his name is Ilusha Ilyakov, or Ilusha. Mm-hmm. And I said, Ilusha, I am your cousin. You don't know me, but I need your help. I need the invitation letter. He said, no problem, I'll get to you. I need a tour guide in Moldova to show me the country, and I need a car with a driver. Say, don't worry, I will take care. After 1 month, I received the invitation letter. So I could buy the tickets with my friend in Canada. We flew to Frankfurt. In Frankfurt, we took Air Moldova to Chisinau. And but before that, I was asking my cousin in Israel, what about the tour guide and the car? Don't worry, I will get to you. That was 2 months before. 1 month before, Ilusha, what about the tour guide and the car? Don't worry. 2 weeks before, I say, Ilusha, what about the tour of the guide? I'm going from Israel to Chisinau. I'm going to be your tour guide, and I'm going to be your driver. Mm-hmm. So he went without knowing me, never. But we knew we were same blood, and he was there, and he took care of me and my friend, and we visit Orgei, Belz, Balchi, Yedenets, Chisinau. We visit everything with him. Mm-hmm. So that was, you asked me something else.
About favorite dishes from Moldova.
And so Mama Ligana is a dish that we love. We love bagel, knishes. We use more Yiddish words because our grandmothers used to say more Yiddish words. Mm-hmm. But the food was the same. It was like a cake with potato and that we call knishes, but maybe it's another name. Mm-hmm. But the Mama Ligana with chicken and something that I love and I still eat every week is eggplant smash, mm-hmm. smoked. That we take the eggplants in the fire, we smoke, we take the cover, and then we smash with tomato, onion, and oil, and it's a delicious. Also, another dish my mother used to do all the time was eggs, also smash eggs, and hrem. You know what's hrem?
Yes, sure.
Yes. So hrem with gefilte fish is a Jewish, but I'm sure it's from Moldova too. So it's a mixture of Jewish roots with Moldova roots, and we love. And still here the Passover dinner, Pesach dinner in my house, we have 80 people in one big table, and all the food is typical from Moldova.
Oh, are the similarities between the Moldova people and people from Brazil in terms of lifestyle or architectural style or organization of celebration?
I wouldn't say so. I think no. Brazil is very different. We have in the south of Brazil, we have more Europeans that came. The slavery in Brazil finished in 1888. So from 1500 till 1888, every tough work was done by slaves brought from Africa. When we had no more slavery in Brazil, the government of Brazil started inviting people from Europe to come to work in the farms. And so came a lot of Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, Germans, all these people came, Ukrainians and Russians. And so in the south of Brazil, you have a lot of these immigrants working in the farms and then becoming retailers and became a business people. And in the north of Brazil, we have a very strong, still today, Black community, people that are origin from the slavers, and with some Indians that were the original people from Brazil, not Indians from India, but Indians from Native Americans that was living here before the Portuguese discovered Brazil. So in the Northeast, music is very strong, food, very strong food. African religions are very strong with all the culture. And when you go to the South, the people are more Christian, more good. We have a state called Paraná, the capital is Curitiba. You have a lot of Ukrainians and Polish. So there, the culture and the food looks a little bit like. But when you go to the Northeast, completely different culture, completely different food, completely different music.
Maybe you know, but in Argentina exists a region, autonomy, called Bassa del Basso, created by Bessarabian Jews.
A very important and rich Baron Hirsch.
Yes.
He was a very rich man in Bessarabia, and his son died. So he decided to take a lot of money and help the Jews from Bessarabia, Russia, to immigrate to south of Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. And he bought farms, and he helped these people go there and establish. But these people, the majority, were not farmers. They had to work as farmers, but as soon as they could, they became retailers or manufacturers. They became entrepreneurs and left the farms. But these farms in the south of Brazil, we have 4 big farms that became this community place for Jews that Baron Hirsch invited them to come to Brazil and Argentina.
You have studied the civil engineering. What were your personal challenges to choosing such profession?
To tell you the truth, my dream was to become an architect. I love to organize the ideas, to plan a building, to plan a city, urbanism, what I liked. I tried to go to architecture university, but I was very good in physics, mathematics, all the important subjects, but I wasn't very good in designing.
Mm-hmm.
So they cut me. If you are not a good designer, you cannot come. So I moved to engineering. I work as an engineer during the university time, but then I didn't like it very much. So as soon as I finished engineering, I went to do a master's degree in business administration in Brazil, and I became a business person. I work organizing exhibitions and congress in another company for 6 years. And when my father-in-law invited me to go to Photoptica, I was in business, not engineering. So I was working in business. I was married and I had 3 kids. And I even wanted to study more in the United States. So I asked for 1 year sabbatical. And I took my wife and my 3 kids and I went to MIT in Boston, in the United States, to do a second master's degree in business administration at MIT. And then I came back and continued to work in Photoptica till the sale of the company.
Are in your plans to create university partnerships between Moldova and Brazil or Sao Paulo region?
Sure. I don't know anybody from university in Moldova, but if I can have connections there, we could try to do something, some connections. We have like even in Germany, I have some friends from Germany. They start a course in Germany, then they come to Brazil and they stay here for 6 months or of 1 year learning in Brazil, and then they go back to Germany. We could try to do this with Moldova University for sure, if I have the right connections.
I think I can help to connect our most important university with you to start the discussion. Okay. Have you been browsing the Great Encyclopedia of Bessarabian Jews? Are there the people what you know but don't know you have the common roots? Exist?
First, I found some good friends, like Leila Sterenberg is a good friend. She's from Global Television. Sandra Annenberg is a good friend, and I knew she was from Bessarabia. Her brother, Daniel Annenberg, he's in government, is a good friend also. I knew other people like Jacques Morellenbaum. I knew he was Jewish. I didn't know he was from Bessarabia. And so it was, I was happy to understand. And
we consider you to be a wise man and ask you to give one piece of advice that will give the young people who watch will to have the good results. What principles of life should they follow in order to have peace of mind and professional achievements?
I would say that to live very well today and to look for the future, it's very important to learn about our roots. So to learn about our roots, where we come from, how was the life of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, how tough was their life, how they could manage to have the life that you have today. This is very important so you can build a future for your kids and a future for the other future generations. Some people don't care about the past. Past is gone. I just want to go ahead. But I think it's important to learn the past of our family. And also I love to learn about history, to learn which mistakes people did like Hitler did a big mistake in Germany, and now Mr. Putin is doing a similar mistake invading Ukraine. We have to learn from those mistakes, not to let mistakes happen again.
Thank you very much. If exists some words which you want to say and I don't ask.
No, I just want to thank you. It was a big pleasure to be connected with you. Nobody knew about your book. So every Brazilian that is in your book that I knew personally, or I could get a contact, I took a picture of his page, a picture of the cover, a picture of the size of the book, and I sent to them. So they, oh, I am in that book. I didn't know. Thank you very much. How can I get the book? Then I give your contact so they could buy from you the book. And it was a big happiness for me to be in your book and to know so many nice people there. So I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to be considered an important Bessarabian Jew in Brazil, and I will do my best to help the Bessarabia, Moldavia Jews, and the connection with Brazil and all the connections I can help. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much for your time.